Hello, listeners. This is Kat. Welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfic. This will be the continuation and final chapter and epilogue for See You in the Morning. This is chapter 15. Izuku had been living with Zawa and Zashi for a month now. There were more rough patches like the first couple of days where Jade passed away. After that incident, the couple had implemented a rule that they have to at least be texted before Izuku disappears for a ritual. Though more often, at least one of them would just come with Izuku to the ritual, which meant that Izuku had to text Sasha a lot to see if it was okay for him to bring guests. After the first 2 or 3 rituals, Izuku had just started ignoring a bunch of knowing looks from his friends. The last time guests had started coming around was just as Izuku got a job at the Quirky Cafe, when an older teen who he thinks the name might have been Zashu or Sashu started bringing his foster mom to the safe spaces for lunch as well as a couple of rituals. When younger Izuku had asked why the teen was getting so many looks from everyone, Fuwashi had said they're just teasing him because he was about to convert to the foster mom, which hadn't made much sense to him at the time because he didn't really know about blue stars or any rituals regarding them. Now Izuku relates to the teen, having to elbow a multitude of the community who try to make jokes about being starred at his guardians or who would ask when the ritual was. Thankfully, the 2 pro-heroes hadn't seemed to notice all the comments and looks yet, or at least they hadn't mentioned it to him or asked him, and that's good enough for Izuku. It had taken Izuku 2 more weeks of fending off the community before Hinto, Sasha, and Hihara pulled him aside during one of his visits to the cafe for an intervention. By the time Izuku was let free, his face was burning, and he was handed an invitation to his own guardian's ritual, which Hihara had made, the little traitor. Took him another 3 days of trying to avoid his guardian's questions about why he was acting weird for him to slide the invitation over to Zawa and Zashi during a breakfast at the apartment. His ears were still ringing from the shriek Zashi had made after reading through the invitation twice. Zawa was so shocked he didn't even use his quirk to spare their ears, opting to stare at the little blue invitation on the table instead. After a couple more minutes of excited sounds from his blonde guardian and a wide-eyed stare from his hero, Zawa had stood up from his chair and strode over to Izuku, who was ready to bolt at this point, scooping him up into a bone-crushing hug, which Zashi soon joined, quirk finally silent. It's safe to say that his guardians had called in sick at their work, instead staying with Izuku to celebrate being asked. And if they received an ominous congratulations from Nezu and Recovery Girl, well, that was ignored for their own sanity, or more likely his guardian's sanities. Now it's early June, and Izuku is shifting nervously beside the Seis. Hinto's parents thankfully recovered, and they're healthy after their stay in the hospital for a couple of weeks, as they all wait for the ritual to start. They're at the theater, since it's the only place big enough for everyone to be there at once. Red flowers are strewn along the walls, the steps up to the stage, and all across the stage itself. An impressive display of many different red flowers all blending together to create an exotic look in honor of their lost community. There are vibrant blue ribbons along the stage as well as all the accent pieces. Izuku had only ever attended one other blue star ritual years ago now. He never thought he would ever attend his own. He's standing on the stage dressed in black to represent being blank of a quirk, with only his red star necklace standing in stark contrast in the middle of his chest. He's even wearing black sneakers, a custom-made pair gifted to kids who underwent their guardians becoming blue stars. The Seis are standing with him on the stage, all dressed in black as well, with only red stars as their accessories, as well as the traditional red Q&C sneakers. They had taken care of him and accepted him into their family, even if they hadn't adopted him or fostered him. They were his community guardians, and so they stand here with Izuku on the stage to give his care to his guardians. They're all standing as a group, waiting for his heroes to come in. And screw you, he's nervous as hell. Multiple times Hinto has had to grab his hands from causing permanent damage by wringing them together. What if they didn't show up? What if they rejected him? Was this all a lie? Oh, Kami, no one would want a Deku like him. Why did he even think this was a good idea? He trusted them. He did, but it's also hard to be calm when this is such an important step. Not only were they getting the blue stars today, but they were also signing the adoption papers. After today, if everything went well, Izuku would become Yamazawa, Izuku the son of Yamazawa Hizashi and Yamazawa Shota. He was scared, but he trusted them to make all of his fears disappear. They'll be here in a minute. Just got the text from Sasha. Hinto whispers in Izuku's ear, making him jump at the suddenness, his nerves spike alongside his pulse at being startled. 1 more minute. Sasha was out with his 2 guardians as they look for the biggest rocks they can find, as well as to make sure that they're dressed correctly and, if Sei's dad is to be believed, to give them a threatening speech about not letting Izuku down. Sasha had shown up at the apartment at the crack of dawn to collect the pro-heroes, and Izuku hadn't seen them since. Being collected by the Seis himself around 9 this morning. Usually it doesn't take so many hours to find a rock, but Sasha must have deemed it acceptable. If he hadn't warned Hinto things were going south. The rest of the community were already here and standing in the floor space of the theater. All the red stars are dressed in black, all the blue stars dressed in white to represent their quirks, with how light actually has all colors in it. And lastly, there's 2 gray stars of Musutafu dressed in gold. Nezu is one. The other one Izuku can't wait for his guardians to see. She had been a surprise even to Izuku. He had heard about the second gray star of Musutafu multiple times through rumors and stories, but he'd never actually met or seen her, or at least he hadn't thought he had. Nezu, as a lawyer and a gray star, was the only other person on the stage with Izuku and the Seis. The rodent was there to oversee the adoption process, and he could do all the legal parts necessary. The doors of the theater open with a creak, and Izuku's nerves shoot back up to manic at the sight of Sasha dressed in black, soon followed by Aizawa and Zashi. Both are dressed in royal blue suits, red flowers in the pockets. What shocks Izuku more than anything else are the rocks they're carrying. No wonder it took them hours to get to the theater. Sometimes Izuku forgets that his heroes are traditionally strong, not just smart and quick. The rocks are 2 times the size of them, and Izuku's speechless, watching the rocks, boulders really, being carried over their heads, dirt still clinging to parts of them. Where the fuck did they even find rocks that big in Musutafu? There are gasps and clapping from the crowd when they see the 2 pro heroes carrying such big rocks, the rocks which represent their readiness to care for and love Izuku, their willingness to protect and stand with him through everything that society will throw at them. They found rocks bigger than anyone had ever brought, and each of the rocks was supposed to represent their love for him. Izuku doesn't know he's crying until Fuwashi chuckles and hands him a Kleenex, which he gratefully takes. They love him. They really love and want him. Sooner than Izuku expects, Sasha's standing across from Izuku holding a small black box tied with blue ribbon out for him to take. Twin thunks of the rocks being sat down side by side on the stage, shaking the floor underneath Izuku's feet as he takes the offered box. They're panting as they go to stand across from Izuku as well, Sasha having moved to stand beside Nezu, who's stationed between them, but further back from the crowd. Hey, Midori. Zawa and Zashi have taken to calling Izuku Zuku after the day when Zawa found him outside of the library space, scared out of his mind. But during especially tender or important moments, Izuku had noticed they revert to calling him Midori, the name making Izuku feel warm and loved in a way that is becoming increasingly familiar. Hearing Eraser's gruff voice in the silence of the theater calling him Midori makes everything feel real now. This is really happening. He's being adopted. He has people now. He has a family now. He has a family. The start of the ritual passes by like a whirlwind, and suddenly the Seis are passing him over to Zawa and Zashi after making them each promise to care for and love him. A few threats thrown in as well, much to the crowd's amusement if the chuckles are any indication. Standing close to the heroes, Izuku holds out the black box, all their eyes trained on his hands, as he undoes the blue ribbon, the fabric falling to the floor. Taking a deep breath, Izuku opens the lid. Inside lay 2 necklaces, identical to Izuku's, only in blue. Sasha had provided the necklaces, though Izuku isn't sure where he got them, since Izuku's was also from Sasha, but this necklace used to actually be Sasha's and was from the man's home country. Collecting the 2 necklaces into his hands, Izuku holds them close to his chest, staring up at his heroes, anxiety spiking. You promised to never leave me, to stay with me and protect me. The emotional expressions on their faces smooth out into something more serious, exchanging looks before reaching forward to pull him into a hug, smashed between the 2 as they reassure him. Aw, little listener, Midori, we would never leave you. You're ours for life now, and we're yours. We want you, kiddo, and we would never allow anything to happen to you or hurt you. We're yours for as long as you want us. After another second of embracing and making sure Izuku is calm, they step back, though not far. I trust you, Izuku says, meeting both black eyes and lime green ones. Deep breaths. You got this, Izuku. You didn't practice in the mirror for hours just to fuck up. Please take these blue stars. Become one of the community. Take on the burdens and love of our whole, so that you may protect and preserve us. These are official words, coached to him a week prior by Hinto, created years ago to be said at this type of ritual, meant to formally ask them to be blue stars as well as explain vaguely what a blue star is. They're meant to protect the community, our secrets and people, as well as keep us alive in memories of the Quirk Society. I will take this blue star and promise to always protect you and preserve this community and love and protect you. More formal words spoken in sync by the 2 quirked adults. He cannot but wonder if they too practice their lines for hours listening to the perfect sync. With a nod, Izuku steps even closer and slides the necklace onto a leaning down Eraser's neck, then onto Zashi's, both immediately reaching down to look at the blue star that's now hanging from their necks. Now, to sign the adoption papers, Shota and Hisashi. Nezu grabs their attention, and Izuku walks up to the table in front of Sasha and Nezu, which holds the adoption papers. His adoption papers. Without hesitation, Zawa asks for the pen and signs the documents, then handing it over to Zashi, who signs after grinning at Izuku over his shoulder. All too soon, the blonde is handing Izuku himself the pen, and his heroes both step to the side so that he can see the document. Stepping forward, Izuku meets Sasha's gaze, who just smiles before pointing him toward the one spot he has to sign. With shaking hands and a swelling heart, Izuku glides the pen in arcs across the line. Stepping back, he is immediately scooped up into a grasp. Izuku. Izuku. His parents are saying his name like a blessing, clapping and hoots of joy filling the space. Soon the hug is joined by Seize, then Sasha, and soon everyone is joined, forming a huge circle of all people embracing. But Izuku doesn't even care. All he's focused on is his parents, his dads, his family. He has a family. Never has Izuku ever felt so loved as he did in that moment, surrounded by his community and his dads whispering how much they love him, as tears track a path down all their faces. After years of suffering and beatings and insults, Izuku has finally found his home. It's later on, everyone helping to clean up the theater, when the other Grey Star, the ritual, comes forward to congratulate the Yamazawa family. The dumbfounded look on his dad's faces are worth the wait in Izuku's opinion, because at the sight of Recovery Girl standing in front of them, a Grey Star hanging from her neck, and dressed solely in gold, Izuku gets to watch as they both go completely frozen. Zashi recovered first, face morphing into disbelief, then quickly through all the stages of grief alongside shock and eventually realization. Zawa's not far behind, finally settling in realization. No doubt, thinking of all the times Recovery Girl had been there while Izuku used AT and didn't help Zawa with uncovering Izuku's secrets. He assumes this because it's exactly what Izuku himself went through upon seeing her this morning. Oh, don't look so surprised, Shota. I told you the kid would be fine, and he is. She's got you there, Sho. Zashi pipes up, seemingly coming to his own senses and regaining speech quicker than Eraser. What? You're the other Grey Star? Everyone just laughs at his dad's confused and incredulous words. Not long after Recovery Girl's appearance and subsequent blowing of his dad's minds, Izuku and his dads head home, intent on having a family dinner and cuddling the kitties after such a busy day as today. Izuku can't wait to cuddle Tilly and Bastard as he tells them about the ritual. He'd become used to telling the two cats about his day before going to sleep each night since starting to live here. Tilly just loafing on his chest as he speaks, green eyes watching him, and Bastard curled up beside him in his bed pretending to be asleep. As Izuku speaks. Today was a lot, and Izuku's exhausted, but he also never wanted to pause time and live in a moment of time forever like he wanted to today, while hugging his dads. That night, after eating katsudan with his dads and being tucked into bed by both his dads, he drifts off to sleep, whispering to the cats about his day. Izuku can't wait to see his dads in the morning. All right, listeners, this concludes the fic. See you in the morning. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I really liked the author did this as an epilogue where they finally get inducted into the community as well. Let me know your thoughts and reactions to this one, and as always, thank you so much for listening.